Oh hi. Sao Paulo, the city in the southeast of Brazil, the capital of the state of the same name. The most inhabited city within the country, the continent, Portuguese language community and all southern hemisphere. It is located in the valley of the Taite River, in 70 km from the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. The city bears a name of the Apostle Pavel, in which day of remembrance it was founded by Jesuits on the place of the Indian settlement on January 25. In day of Saint Pavel. In 1554. The square of the city makes 1523 km. And the population minus 11.3 million people. According to age for 2011. That does it by the third most populated city in the Western Hemisphere. The architectural image of the city is created by mixture of the most different eras and styles. In Sao Paulo, the set of ancient buildings, the museums and churches remained. At the same time, Sao Paulo, one of the most modern cities, his main part it is built up with skyscrapers from glass and metal. As, for example, Avenida Paulista. Including 11 on height skyscraper of Brazil, Mirante do Vale. This similar neighborhood of styles doesn't look far-fetched and alien, on the contrary, the ancient church can harmoniously look against the background of the most modern building. The motto on the coat of arms. Lat. Non vive cor DVK, operate not me, and I operate. The settlement of Sao Paulo. Then San Paulo Campus de Pirtinga. Is founded on January 25, 1554 by a group of Jesuits missionaries under the direction of Manuela de Anabregui and José de Anchieta. They established on this place a mission under the name Colégio de São Paulo. For the purpose of the address of Indians be in a stupor Piratininga, Guarani in Catholicism. The settlement was located at the bottom of a mountain chain Serra do Mar at the Taite River, overlooking the gulf where the seaport of Santos, a natural pass from the southeast coast to the extensive and fertile plateau in the west was built that became subsequently the state of Sao Paulo. Within the 17th and 18th centuries, a group of researchers that called themselves Bandeirante crossed forests and new territories of South America in search of gold, diamonds, other natural wealth and slaves. It is considered that they first of all were responsible as for territorial expansion of Brazil to the west of the Tordesilhas line, and for opening of many fields of precious metals and stones. In the city there are several monuments in commemoration of their contribution to development of the city, in particular Monumento às Bandeiras, one of the known sites of Sao Paulo now. Sao Paulo officially received the status of the city in 1711. In the 19th century the city entered the period of economic prosperity, mainly thanks to export of coffee that it was shipped outward from the neighboring city of Santos. After 1881 to the state and the city's immigration from Italy, Portugal, Spain, Germany and other countries began, immigrants were attracted by new lands and work on huge coffee plantations of the state. At the beginning of the 20th century income from export of coffee sharply fell, first of all because of the global economic crisis and falling of the prices. As a result, the stream of investments of local businessmen was aimed at the development of the industry of Sao Paulo, attracting new waves of immigrants to the city, mainly from Italy. In addition to Europeans, in the first half of the 20th century to the city a large number Japanese and Arabs immigrated. Within the 20th century the prospering city economy also attracted huge number of immigrants from poor regions of Brazil, especially from the northeast. The Museum of the Paulist in Sao Paulo, constructed on the place where in 1822 independence of Brazil was declared. However, at the end of the 20th century, because of the competition to other cities of Brazil sometimes offering the best tax terms for the industrial companies, the main economic activity of Sao Paulo gradually left the industrial orientation in favor of services sector. Now in the city offices of a big number of the local and international banks, law firms, the diversified multinational companies and corporations offering various services are located. Other important historical milestone, foundation of Law School of the Largo, San Francisco. Now faculty of the University of Sao Paulo, which was one of the three first academic institutions in Brazil together with Law School in Recife and the Federal University of the State of Amazonas. This educational institution, founded under the imperial decree on March 1, 1828, at first was open in the monastery, soon after foundation of the Brazilian Empire, because of increase in need for lawyers and politicians. As rich Brazilians often went to Europe in search of education, especially legal, the Emperor to Peter I decided that it is necessary to create national law school. She began to attract students from the whole country that became an important factor of creation of Bohemian elite of the city. Despite some economic problems, Sao Paulo remains the largest business center of Latin America. The huge market of agglomeration, more than 20 million inhabitants, attracts the foreign companies. Thanks to cultural events such as International Biennial of Art, Bienal International de Art, the city received reputation of the cultural center, first of all music and arts. Economic growth and export gradually reduce unemployment rate in the city. Notorious local crime also quickly decreases. Development of the city happens in many areas. The historic center attracts public institutions and the private universities, and business structures move to new areas, such as Itaim Bibi, Olympia and Barini Twisted. Thanks to business visits, the city attracts more visitors than Rio de Janeiro, the main competitor of Sao Paulo now within the last century. Sao Paulo is located on the plateau which is a part Serra do Mar, a sea ridge, that in turn a part of the big region known as the Brazilian uplands. Plateau height above sea level -800 m, though from the Atlantic Ocean it is only in 70 km. The remarkable fact is that the city crosses the Tropic of Capricorn. The highest point of the city, the mountain Jaragua, which is on the highest top of all state, and ridge Serra de Cantareira. The area tectonic is very steady, no seismic activity is observed here. The Taite River was once main source of fresh water of the city and the vacation spot of its inhabitants. However, during the second half of the 20th century the river was polluted by sewage of the industrial enterprises, as well as her inflow the Pinheiros River. The active program of cleaning of both rivers financed by the international development banks, such as Japanese Bank of the International Cooperation, is now carried out. In city boundaries there are no navigable rivers, however the water transport becomes on the Taite River more and more important, especially further on a current in the southern direction, and at the Parana River as Taite, a part of the basin of La Plata. The city has no natural lakes, but there are two reservoirs, Carapiranga and Billings, used for receiving the electric power, preservation of fresh water and rest of residents. Initial flora consisted of a big variety of broad-leaved evergreen plants. In the city there are a lot of delivered plants as the soft climate and abundance of rainfall allow to grow up the majority of plant species of tropical, subtropical and moderate belts. For example, plantings of an eucalyptus are very widespread. Sao Paulo has transitional mountain from subequatorial to tropical climate, with a rainy season from December to February and a dry season the rest of the year. At the same time, temperature during a rainy season seldom reaches 30 C, and the dry season is characteristic in the warm days and at the cool nights. In spite of the fact that Sao Paulo is in low latitudes, almost precisely at the latitude of the Tropic of Capricorn, at invasions of cold air masses from the south, serious cold snaps are possible, and there was even a blizzard. It was recorded officially only once, on June 25, 1918. Rains are quite strong, especially in warm months, and in July and their August practically doesn't happen. Neither Sao Paulo, nor the seacoast adjoining to them were never exposed to blows of tropical cyclones, and here practically there are never tornadoes. Recently August, in spite of the fact that it is winter month here, dry and hot, temperature sometimes reaches 28 C. This phenomenon is called veranico. About port. Small summer. Sao Paulo officially is a part of the big agglomeration called by Grand Sao Paulo, Big Sao Paulo. Agglomeration includes 39 municipalities with the population more than 19 million inhabitants. For 2005 data of age. As Sao Paulo was stretched too widely, there are two ways of definition of his agglomeration. On and to the common statistyczny area. Complexo Metropolitano Expandido. It is the second largest city in the world from 29 million inhabitants. Narrower definition is considered by Big Sao Paulo as the territory which doesn't include Campinas, Baixada Santista and other neighboring areas. In this territory about 19.7 million people live. As of 2006. That is it by the fifth largest agglomeration in the world. The city of Sao Paulo is divided into 31 urban areas, they called subprefecturam. Subprefeituras. Each subprefectura is divided into several districts. In most cases, 2 or 3. Subprefectura with the greatest number of areas, C. Port. Subprefeitura da Fast. Being in the historic and business center which has 8 districts. Together with administrative division there is also a geographical radial division established in 2007 by the Mayor Gilberto Casaban. The city thus is divided into 10 regions. The historic center, the expanded center, the north, the south, the east, the west, the northeast, the northwest, the southeast and the southwest. Everyone has characteristic color of buses and street plates. This division has no relation to subprefectura and areas, and in certain cases, the same area can be in 2 or more geographical regions. The area where there is a management of a subprefectura receives the same name as a subprefecture except for Maboimiram. Sao Paulo has the greatest ethnic variety of inhabitants from all cities of Brazil. After the ban of a slave trade in Brazil in 1850, landowners of the state began to replace the African labor force for work on coffee plantations as immigrants. This practice there began Senator Nicolau Vergueira. who attracted from Europe Germans, Swisses and Portuguese to work on the plantations. After cancellation of slavery in 1888, large numbers of immigrants, the majority of whom were natives of Italy, began to arrive in Sao Paulo. In 1897, Italians made about a half of the population. Portuguese, Spaniards, Germans, Jews and Arabs also arrived in significant amounts. From 1908 to 1950 also there arrived many Japanese immigrants. As well as in all Brazil, the population of Sao Paulo represents a mix of various ethnic groups that gives very different multinational society. Today representatives more than 100 ethnic groups consider the city the house. The largest ethnic groups are hard Italians. In particular, as well as in case of other groups, descendants of immigrants. Sao Paulo has more inhabitants of the Italian origin than any other city in the world, including even Milan and Rome. 3 million Portuguese. 3 million Africans. Hard Arabs. Hard Germans. Hard Japanese. This largest Japanese community outside Japan. Hard Chinese. 600,000 Bolivians. 500,000 Greeks. 50,000 Koreans. 40,000 Jews. 25,000 Armenians. The population of Sao Paulo on racial sign consists on official terminology and statistics of 8 million white, 2.6 million Métis, card natives of Africa, card natives of Asia and 18,000 Indians. Population 1872, 31385. 1890, 64934. 1900, 239,820. 1920, 579,033. 1940, 1,326,261. 1950, 2,199,096. 1960, 3,781,446. 1970, 5,924,615. 1980, 8,493,226. 1991, 9,646,185. 2000, 10,434,252. 2007, 10,886,534. 2014, 11,895,893. 2017, 12,106,920. 2020, 12,325,232. As well as in all territory of Brazil, language which speaks most of the population is Portuguese. Because of considerable inflow of immigrants from Italy, however, Portuguese of this city came under considerable influence of Italian, first of all his Neapolitan and Venetian dialects. The Italian dialects mixed up in the city with a provincial dialect of a caper. First of all, the dialect of the city was created in Mocha, the area occupied at the beginning of the 20th century by immigrants from Naples and nearby areas. Other languages which speak in the city first of all among immigrants are Japanese, widespread in the region of Liberdade where the largest Japanese diaspora lives in the world. Though most of Brazilians of the Japanese origin talk only in Portuguese, some keep traditions and language of ancestors. Also some share of immigrants from China and Korea talks in the corresponding languages, though this share is small. The English and Spanish languages are taught at schools as the main foreign languages, however very few residents reach free possession of them. Sao Paulo had in 2012 income per capita of reals a year, and it is expected, will take the 13th position in the world on this indicator by 2020. According to data of age, DDD in 2012 I made R dollar reals 499.4 billion or 174.4 billion of dollar. That makes about 12% of DDD of Brazil and 36% of DDD of the state of Sao Paulo. This city is the largest financial center of Brazil and one of the world's largest. This sector of city economy quickly grows. Historically, the city had the considerable industrial sector, but now the economy moves in services sector, serving business of the whole country. Many responses indicate growth of importance of the city in world economy, though this growth and slows down because of serious problems of social character. Except financial services, the city economy continues to keep the most part of other branches of economy. Sao Paulo is the largest financial center of economy Mercosur. This city attracts many important economic forums and conferences that is it not only economic, but also cultural and scientific center of the region. Here the events from small meetings prior to large international exhibitions, more than 200 international actions in day occupying the space about 250,000 square. In pavilions and the conference centers without the area of hotels are held that adds 70,000 more square. And together with clubs, the cultural and business areas, this number reaches 430,000 square. Also the city is capable to brag of numerous tourist places, from gastronomic to cultural institutions. In particular, 12,000 restaurants offering more than 40 various kitchens, 70 museums, more than 200 movie theaters, about 50 theaters and galleries work in the city. If the city of Sao Paulo was the country, his DDD would be the 47th in the world. It is more than DDD of Egypt, approximately equaling DDD of New Zealand, Israel or Ukraine. It is more than at a half of states of the USA. About 30,000 millionaires, 60% of all millionaires of Brazil live in the city. In 2005 in the city it was collected taxes on R $90 billion and his budget I made R $15 billion. In the city, banks and their branches, 70 shopping centers work. From all multinational corporations having representations in Brazil, representations of 63% are in this city. And according to data of Mystery Shopping International, Oscar Freire Street takes the 8th place from the smartest in the world. The BNF Bovespa exchange is the main financial and commodity exchange of Brazil. It is the largest exchange of Latin America and the third in trading volumes in the world, reaching turnovers of R $6 billion a day. The city of Sao Paulo is crossed by 10 important Brazilian highways. Cars remain the main vehicle in the city and its vicinities. The main ways are Bandeirante Highway in the city of Sao Paulo, one of the main highways connecting the city to internal districts of the state. The Highway of the President Dutra. Rodovia Presidente Dutra, Pri-116. Connects the city of Sao Paulo to east and northeast regions of the country. His main destination is Rio de Janeiro. Regis Bittencourt Highway. Rodovia Regis Bittencourt, Pri-116. Connects Sao Paulo to the southern regions of the country. His main destinations is Curitiba and Porto Alegre. Fernão Dias Highway. Rodovia Fernão Dias, Pri-381. Connects the city to northern regions of the country. His main purpose is Belo Horizonte. Anchieta Highway. Rodovia Anchieta SP-150. Is connected by the city to the coast of the ocean and is mainly used for transportation of freights from the port of Santos, that is his main destination. Imigrantov Highway. Rodovia dos Imigrantes SP-150. Connects the city to the coast of the ocean and is mainly used for internal tourism. The main destinations are Santos, San Vicente, Carúcha and Praia Grande. Castelo Branco Highway. Rodovia Castelo Branco, SP-280. Connects the city to the western and northwest regions of the country. His main destinations are Osasco, Sorocaba, Bora and Campo Grande. Raposa Tavares Highway. Rodovia Raposa Tavares, SP-270. Connects the city to the western regions of the country. His main destinations are Catia, Sorocaba, Presidente Prudente. Anhanguera Highway. Rodovia Anhanguera, SP-330. Connects the city to northwest regions of the country. His main destinations are Brasilia, Campinas, Ribeirão Preto. Bandeirantes Highway. Rodovia dos Bandeirantes, SP-348. Connects the city to northwest regions of the country and it is considered the best road of the state and, probably, the country's. His main destinations are Campinas, to Ribeirão Preto, Piracicaba and San José do Rio Preto. Ayrton Senna Highway. Rodovia Ayrton Senna, SP-70. Connects the city to east districts of the state and its northern coast. His main destinations are the International Airport of Sao Paulo/Guarulhos, San José dos Campos and Caraguatatuba. Sao Paulo quickly grew during the period from the 1940th to the 1980th years, when many roads were constructed without due planning. Overflow by cause of the main city roads resulted, and traffic jams became an everyday occurrence in the city. For prevention of it by the government of the former Governor Mary Covas, the decision on construction of the Belt Road around the city, the so-called Belt Road Mary Covas, Rodonel Mario Covas, was made. This work was undertaken by the Dersa Company. Though the network of the main railroads in the country is developed quite badly, there is a project of construction of the high-speed railroad which has to connect the cities of Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. Trains of the line will gather speed to 280 km/h, and all travel will take about 1 hour 30 minutes. This project wasn't officially announced yet by the government of the country, which tries to find for additional investors. Other important railway project is Expresso Bandeirantes, which is to be the line of average speed which will connect Sao Paulo with Campinas and will reduce time for air travel from these 1.5 hours to 50 minutes. Also, she will serve Jundiaí and the Campinas airport. This line will be integrated into the network connecting the downtown of Sao Paulo to the airport Guarulhos. Besides, works on connection of the city center with the airports Guarulhos and Congonhas, which began in 2007, are now conducted. These lines will become important in development of all Brazilian railway system. Sao Paulo has 3 airports. 2 of them are the important international airports. It is the International Airport São Paulo Guarulhos, VRU code, and the International Airport Congonhas Sao Paulo, CG code, serving both the international and internal flights. Also in the city there is a small airport of Campo de Marte to the north of the downtown, is mainly used for private planes and helicopters. Also here the team of the Goodyear blimp airships contains. The Congonhas Airport mainly accepts local and internal flights, in particular to the cities of Rio de Janeiro, Belo Horizonte and Brasilia. The Guarulhos Airport is main international city gate. He is located in 25 km to the northeast from the center of Sao Paulo in the city of Guarulhos. The subway of Sao Paulo has network 101.3 km long, and is known as Metro is Simple. In network 6 lines and 89 stations work. Besides, the city and suburbs services network of SEAT local trains 261.7 km long. Both systems on weekday transport 8.5 million people, and new lines which are planned to start within the next years have to increase this number. These projects will increase length of lines from modern 323 km to more than 500 km within 10 years. In Sao Paulo there is no tram line left, though this type of transport was popular in the first half of the 20th century. However, the system of the subway is rather modern, safe and effective. It is considered one of the best in the world according to AN ISO 9001. The system has 4 operating lines, 1 more is under construction now. These lines have convenient communications with the SEAT system. Lines of the subway are: Line 1 is blue. The first line of the subway connecting northern and southern districts of the city. The line has stations of changes to lines 2, 3, 4 and to the trains SEAT. Also on the line there are Tiet and Zobakiers bus terminals. Line 2 is green. This line mainly passes under Avenida de Paulista, connecting areas Ipiranga and Vila Madalena, and has stations of changes to lines 1 and 4. It is the third in time opening the line of the subway of the city. Line 3 is red. The most loaded line of the subway, the second in time opening, connecting east and western districts of the city. The stations of changes to lines 1 and 4 and to SEAT. On the line there is also a bus bar fund terminal. Line 4, yellow, is under construction. This line is planned to opening in 2009 and will connect the station of Billiard Pockets in the downtown to areas in the west. The line will include stations of changes on line 1, 2, 3 and SEAT. Line 5 is lilac. This line was built for service of certain areas in the west, however only her small part which isn't combined with other system works now. The binding site will be open in several years. The stations of changes in the SEAT system at the station Santo Mar. Line 6, orange, is planned. Construction of the line, it was declared in 2008. Her opening is planned for 2012. This line will connect the district de Freguesia to the downtown. The line will have stations of changes to lines 1, 4 and to SEAT. The system of SEAT local trains has the following lines served by the trains moving on a surface. Line 7 is ruby. Earlier the part of the railroads of Sao Paulo connects the station of Billiard Pockets in the downtown to the city of Francisco Morato, crossing the northeast districts of Sao Paulo. One more side of the line goes to the city of Jundiaí. It is the longest sea outline. Line 8 is Diamond. Earlier the part of the railroad Sorocabana connects the Júlio Prestes station to the city of Itapevi, crossing the districts of São Paulo. Continuation of the line has 4 more stations to the station Amador Buna near San Roque. Line 9 is Emerald. Also the part of the former railroad Sorocabana, this line lies alongside Ignacy Avenue to the city of Osasco, has stations of changes to the line of 5 subway. Line 10 is Jade. Earlier southern part of the railroads of São Paulo, now continuation of the line of 7 subway to ABS region. Line 11 is Coral. Goes through east districts of the city to the district of Guaianases, and her continuation takes place to a university campus in Mogi das Cruzes. Line 12 is Sapphire. Crosses northeast districts of the city from the Brás station to the city of Itaquaquecetuba. The bus network is a basis of São Paulo public transport. She is served by both the state and private companies and has about 17,000 buses of Buscar. Buscar is the only company in the city releasing trolleybuses and buses. Also the firm has about 210 trolleybuses painted depending on the district of the city which they serve. For example, light green, the western area, dark blue, northern. In the city models of Marco Polo Torino trolleybuses mainly work. Till last years in the city there was a large number of private share taxis, often informal, but now almost all of them were registered by the government, recorded in official flowers and were a part of the official transport system. In São Paulo the movement of buses is controlled from the centers intended for this purpose for what use many modern technologies, such as computer modeling, use of a system of global positioning for tracking of position of buses and the electronic systems of payment of journey. In the city a quantity of environmentally friendly buses also works on hydrogen engines, especially on the loaded lines. Several large bus stations also work in the city, in particular the Itaí terminal is considered the second largest bus station in the world. Buses from him serve 565 cities in the majority of states of the country, except her northern areas, and even other countries, such as Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina, Chile and Bolivia. Separate lines go to city airports. São Paulo is also known for a significant amount of helicopters per capita. In the city about 400 helicopters fly, making about 70,000 flights a year. For their service about 100 platforms for landing allowing rich residents to avoid frequent transport problems on roads work in the city. Many companies of the city have own helicopters, others temporarily rent them, and the third use services of air taxi. São Paulo is famous for the nightlife. Vibes contain in the city of 13000 restaurants, 15000 bars and nightclubs registered in the most different style in which locals and city visitors spend time. Other tourist places, shopping Rua Oscar Freire and Street and a set of monuments of architecture, including the street Benedict's Monastery located in the downtown. In São Paulo sale of fur is forbidden. The ban on trade in fur products works since 2014.
2725 elementary schools, 2998 preschool institutions, 1199 high schools and 146 higher education institutions work in the city. That is the city by the largest education center of the country. In the city there are 2,850,133 school and university students of different level and 153,284 teachers. The education factor as a part of Urchin municipality is of 2000 made 0.919, rather high. He considerably rose thanks to the program of the Union for Development. PNUD. The share of illiterate inhabitants. Incapable to read. According to a census of age in 2007 fell up to 4.9%, above only in the cities of Curitiba, Porto Alegre, Florianopolis, Rio de Janeiro, Vitória and Belo Horizonte. Thus, by the Arch Index for 2007, São Paulo takes the 9th position among the capitals of the Brazilian states. By results of National Examination of Secondary Education. NM. Of 2007, 3 schools of the city were included into the 20 of the best schools of the country, in particular Colégio Vertis, Colégio Bandeirantes and Mobile, which were respectively on the 3rd, 10th and 20th places. However, because of essential social distinctions of different districts of the city, in some poor areas receiving school education is difficult because of the shortage of schools and their resources. In these areas often construction of new schools is complicated by high crime rate and violence. Education almost only is carried out in Portuguese, official language of the country. For studying the English and Spanish languages are also obligatory. Several universities and higher educational institutions of the lowest level work in the city, in particular the largest of them are University of São Paulo, Universidade de São Paulo, ASP, Papal Catholic University of São Paulo, Pontificia Universidade Católica de São Paulo, PUC-SP. University of the State of São Paulo of Júlio de Mesquita Filho. Universidade Estadual Paulista Júlio de Mesquita Filho, ANESP. Presbyterian University of Mackenzie. Universidade Presbyteriana Mackenzie, Mackenzie. Federal University of São Paulo. Universidade Federal de São Paulo, Unifesp. Methodist University of São Paulo. Universidade Metodista de São Paulo, UMESP. The Higher School of Advertising and Marketing. Escola Superior de Propaganda e Marketing, ESPESP. Getúlio Funda Vargas. Fundação Getúlio Vargas, EGV-ESP. Alvarez Penteado Armando Fund. Fundação Armando Alvarez Penteado, FAP. Universidade Anhembi Morumbi. Brazilian Institute of the Stock Market. Instituto Brasileiro de Mercado de Capitais, IBCSP. Faculty of São Paulo Technology. Faculdade de Tecnologia do Estado de São Paulo, FATEC. College of Social Communication of Casper to Liber. Faculdade de Comunicação Social Casper Libero. São Paulo is one of the largest centers of researches and new technological developments in Latin America. At the beginning of the 21st century, expenses of the private companies on these purposes increase. The appeal of this city to creation of research institutions is promoted by existence of the known universities and state laboratories providing existence of necessary infrastructure for researches and presence of skilled workers.
Existence of research institutions is also promoted by allocation by the government of the state of large sums for researches, first of all through Fund of Support of Researches of São Paulo. Fundaco de Amparo e Pesquisa do Estado de São Paulo, FAPES. One of the largest scientific funds of the country. The main scientific institutions of the city are the Institute of Technological Researches, IPT, is located in a campus of 240,000 m. In the campus of Armando de Solis of Oliveira, represents one of the largest scientific institutions of Latin America, has 13 specialized buildings and 30 laboratories. The institute researches in the field of new technologies, tests and the analysis in the fields of metallurgy, power, applied geology, chemistry and other engineering areas. Also the institute is an incubator of the new enterprises in the field of technology. The Institute of Power and Nuclear Researches, IPEN. This institute was opened in 1956 under the name Institute of Atomic Energy, within the University of São Paulo. Now the institute is administratively subordinated to the National Commission on Nuclear Energy. CNEN. The premises of institute occupy the space of 500,000 m. In the campus of Armando de Solis of Oliveira. Fuaso. Here researches and technological developments of materials and the equipment for nuclear power are conducted, nuclear reactors, procedures of safety and radiation protection are investigated. Together with the University of São Paulo, the institute has programs for graduate students at the level of a magistracy and doctoral studies. Butang Institute. The Center of Biomedical Research is founded in 1901 on a fazenda Butang. Now it is subordinated to the Secretariat of Healthcare of São Paulo. Here various antigens and vaccines are produced. It is the chief producer of serum of blood in the country. The center has the international popularity for his researches of poisonous animals. As a part of Institute 14 laboratories and the Center of Biotechnological Research's work. The Biological Institute. The research institute founded in 1927 for the purpose of support of the state to the coffee industry is devoted to development and a research of biological safety and establishment of standards phyto and zoosanitation. Laboratory researches and production of vaccines and antigens are here too carried up. Also employees of Institute carry out many basic scientific research and the collection of pathogenic microorganisms is supported. Pasteur. Institute. This institute is connected with Secretariat Health Protection of São Paulo and devoted to scientific research of rage and other diseases of animals. The institute was founded in 1903, and conducts many researches on bacteriology and zoopathology. It is one of the most known institutions in the field in Latin America. The Institute of Tropical Medicine of São Paulo. INTSP. The research institute, founded in 1959, is division of Faculty of Medicine of the University of São Paulo for the purpose of carrying out researches and sponsoring of the research program in technology for diagnostics, treatment, control and prevention of tropical diseases and endemics, turned in 2000 into specialized institution with full internal autonomy.
The institute makes a big contribution in various areas of researches and is the center of development, improvement and introduction of various specialized services in the state.
Institute of Forest Area. The research institute, created in 1896 under the name Botanical Garden São Paulo, for the purpose of preservation in this region of native plant species. Also, the institute researches the directed to preservation of wild types, restoration of the woods and rational methods of forestry, protection programs of the environment. The institute directs many parks and reserves. Culture. Literature. In São Paulo, the first Jesuit missions on the territory of Brazil, based at the beginning of the 16th century, were located.
Jesuits wrote many reports to the Portuguese crown about the newfound country, its inhabitants and their poetry and music.
Among them there were works Manuela de Nóbrega and José de Anchieta, living in colony or near colony of Piratiningi. Thanks to them, many works in language were written down in a stupor, in particular textbooks of a lexicon and grammar of this language.
In 1922, the Brazilian modernist movement with the center in São Paulo tried to reach cultural independence in various ways.
Brazil passed through the same steps of development as other countries of Latin America, but her political and cultural independence was reached more difficultly. The first emperor of Brazil, Peter I, was a Duke of the Portuguese royal dynasty, and Brazil remained under the power of the empire till 1889.
Because of communications with the Portuguese culture, the Brazilian writers represented the nature and the multinational nature of Brazil a little.
Existence of a large number of the former slaves, however, gave characteristic African character to culture, and consecutive waves of immigrants from different parts of Europe helped the country to create own literary style and consciousness. Such writers as Murray de Andrade and Oswald de Andrade were classical modernists in the Brazilian literature. Mario de Andrade founded the cultural movement of Brazil. Such works as Policia Desvarada, 1922, and Maquinama, 1928, were the Brazilian folklore with elements of modernism and with attempt of creation of the national hero was widely presented. Oswald de Andrade's poetry and his advanced prose, in particular the novel Seraphim Pont Grande, 1933, and provocative manifestos, also defined leaving in city literature from traditional works. The city is known for many musical festivals and the famous musicians working here representing various styles.
The famous singer and the composer in style a samba Adoniran Barbosa became popular at the beginning of a radio era of São Paulo.
Having been born in the city of Valinhos in 1912, he received huge popularity among the poorest segments of the population of São Paulo, in particular the Italian immigrants of the areas of Baixada, Bela Vista, and Brás, and inhabitants of slums. The Demonios de Agaro group, playing in traditional style, still sings his songs, still popular in the city.
Since the end of the 1960th years, the group of psychedelic Fatos mutants achieved recognition in the whole country.
Success of group is often connected with other musicians of style atropicalia, though they had certain features and own ideas. Often they are considered as it is characteristic, Politsky, in clothes and style of behavior.
Os Mutants released 5 albums before the solo singer of group Rita Lee started a solo career in 1972.
Since 1990 the group became known and abroad.
On a legend, the Brazilian student in California forgot a vinyl record with records of group which was pleasant to her neighbors that led eventually to promoting of group in the USA.
In 2000 Technicolor, an English-speaking disc of group, with design from Sean Lennon was released. In the 1980th years, during economic recession, in the city styles the punk and garage music gained popularity that usually are associated with increase in unemployment and lack of economic prospects of youth. Rock groups of bars and clubs were crowded with the jobless musicians expecting the hour. At this time such groups as Ira received popularity. And Titus.
In the 1990th drum and bass, with such performers as Jay Markey, Jay Patafay, Ayers, Drew Magic and Fernando Porto became the leading musical style.
Also in the city there were many groups in style heavy metal, for example Angra and Tideman, Torture Squad, Corsus and Drive. Sin. Classical music in Sao Paulo also always remained popular. Many most famous Brazilian composers of classical style still work in the city, for example Amaral Vieira, Osvaldo Lacerda and Edson Zamprogna, who were born in the city. In Sao Paulo 2 known opera theaters work. The Municipal Theatre of Sao Paulo and San Pedro Theatre. Some opera statements are carried out in such halls as Credit Card Hall.
A local baritone of Paulo shot South Pacific got the International Award of Tony for the role in 2008 in the musical.
The Symphonic Orchestra of the state of Sao Paulo is also considered one of the most known in Latin America and in the world. It is considered that the first theatrical performance in Brazil took place in Sao Paulo. The Portuguese Jesuit José de Anchieta, one of founders of the city, itself wrote short plays which were put by Indians in missions.
After closing of Jesuit missions, however, the city lost theatrical and in general cultural value.
Only at the beginning of the 20th century, thanks to the wealth brought to the state by coffee plantations, new theatrical performances, first of all by immigrants from Europe, began to be put here. The known theaters already worked in the country meanwhile, in particular, to Peter II invited troops in Ribeirão Preto. Theaters worked in Manaus and Rio de Janeiro. However, the city of Sao Paulo began to gain cultural value only at the time of the vanguard movement. Exactly here the Brazilian comedy theater for the first time began to act. Teatro Brasileiro de Comédia, TEB. In the 60th years the most known statements of the country were put by two groups, and the Arena Theatre in Sao Paulo was one of them. This theatre began to work as the students' theatre of drama school. A Escola de Arte Dramática. Based Alfredo Mesquita in 1948. In 1958 the group made the play Eles Não Usam Black Tie. They don't wear black ties. Gianfrancesco Guarnieri, actually Brazilian drama first in the history written about hired workers. After the revolution of 1964 theatrical performances began to be focused on the Brazilian history. The Arena Theatre became the platform of fight of the minding censorship of the military government.
Also Oficinas theatre at the time began to play a large role. The movement Atropically exactly here began. Many plays which were put there told about historical events, for example, O Re Die Vela Galilu Galilei.
1968. Nacella das Cidades. 1969. And Gracias Senor. 1972. Now in the city plays of various genres are put, tens of theatres where it is possible to enjoy classical music, the ballet and vanguard plays work here.
Thanks to huge value in the history, policy and economy of Brazil of Sao Paulo actually is the huge museum under the open sky. Many of his areas and buildings have historical value.
However, the city has also a large number of the known museums and galleries of art where samples of numerous genres of art, in particular the religious and modern art, a collection of scientific, political, religious value, etc., are exposed. The most known of them are the Museum of the Paulista Ipiranga, the first museum constructed for preserving the memory of Declaration of Independence of Brazil, which was opened on September 7, 1895 under the name Natural History Museum, and in 1919 became exclusively historical museum. Now his collection contains about 100,000 exhibits including works of art, furniture, clothes and other things which belong to the famous persons of the Brazilian history, in particular to researchers of new territories and emperors in due time. In premises of the museum there is also a library from about 100,000 volumes and a center of historical documents from about 40,000 manuscripts. The Memorial of Latin America is the museum, more than 78,000 m2, was under construction for the purpose of representation of all countries of Latin America, origin of their population and their culture. Now the museum is also one of the headquarters of the Latin American Parliament. The building was designed by the architect Oscar Naimura and has the big pavilion where there is a constant collection of products of the different countries of this part of the world, the library containing the books, newspapers, magazines, video records and documents disclosing various aspects of history of Latin America, and audience which can accommodate up to 1679 people. Memorial of Immigrants. The museum, which was opened for the purpose of collecting and saving documents and memorable things of the immigrants arriving in Brazil. The museum is located in one of the oldest buildings of the city, built in 1886-1888 in the district Braz as the hotel providing temporary housing to immigrants.
From 1882 to 1978 in the city there arrived representatives more than 60 nationalities. Representatives of all these groups stopped in this building that is reflected in documents and materials of the modern museum.
About 3,000 people at the same time on average lived in hotel, but on certain circumstances this number sometimes reached 8,000 krom of materials on immigrants. The museum also contains the restored samples of wooden cars of the former railroad Sao Paulo. The Museum of Archaeology and Ethnology of the University of Sao Paulo contains a collection from 120,000 objects and images relating to material culture of the American continent, first of all Brazil and also the Mediterranean, the Middle East and Africa since prehistoric times so far. The Zoological Museum of the University of Sao Paulo. This museum occupies the space about 700,000 m2. Animals, representatives of tropical and subtropical fauna of the country are brought together here. The earliest have age over 50 years. The lobby of the museum contains information on the main types of the researches conducted by the staff of the university. Animals are grouped in traditional classification. fishes, amphibia, reptiles, birds, mammal, some invertebrates such as arthropods, corals and mollusks. The museum also has the library specializing in zoology with the materials intended both for experts and for the general audience, in particular from 73.8 thousand works here, 8473 names of books, 2364 newspapers and magazines are stored. It is a lot of theses and maps. The Museum of Art of Sao Paulo, MASP. This museum was founded by journalists Assis Chateaubriand and Pietro Maria di Bard. His modern building, opened in 1968, was built on the project of the architect Lina Bobardi. Two colonnades support 9.2 thousand, the ton building having the form of a 74-meter cube. The museum possesses one of the collections of history of the Western art, best in Latin America, including among other such outstanding artists of work as Edgar Degas, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, Amedeo Modigliani and Pierre Bonner. The Bandirantav Palace Collection. The palace, which also serves as the location of the government of the state, has an important collection of works of the Brazilian artists, such as Cândido Portinari, Alda Bonaire, Jananera, Almeida Jr., Victor Bracha, to Ernest D. Fiore and Ali Hadniu. In addition, the collection of colonial furniture, leather and silver products contains here.
Walls of the museum in eclectic style are covered with the panels telling about the history Sao Paulo.
The Museum of Images and Sound. MIS.
A main goal of this museum, opened in May 1990, is saving pieces of music, cinema, the photo and examples of graphic design, as well as other manifestations of the modern art of Brazil.
The museum contains a collection from more than 200,000 images distributed on thematic by collections. Also here 1600 videotapes, documents and musical collections and works which are written down on tapes of standards 8 and 16 of them contain. In addition, the museum holds concerts, festivals, film and videos, a photo exhibition and graphics. In the city many economic and cultural events are held. There are specialized magazines and websites specifying their schedule, for example, the Cultural Calendar of Sao Paulo.
The Art Biennial is held each 2 years since 1951, when it was created on a sample of the similar Venice Biennial for the purpose of acquaintance of Brazilians with foreign art to Sao Paulo.
Now this event considerably advances cultural dialogue between Brazil and other cultures. 26 biennials in 2004 visited about 2 million people. One of the largest gay parades in the world is held to Sao Paulo. It is for the first time organized in 1997, part in it is taken by from 3 to 5 million people. The main part of a parade passes on Avenida Paulista. The crowd gathers at Art Museum and several hours stride according to the avenue. One of the main fashion weeks in the world, along with London, New York, Milan and Parisian, is Fashion Week of Sao Paulo, SIFIF, which is spent in the Ibirapuera Park. This event was founded in 1996 under the name Morumbi Fashion Brasil, and is the largest event in the world of fashion of Latin America. In 2001 the modern name was appropriated. The Brazilian industry of fashion pays much attention to this event. Top models from around the world here act. SIFIF was founded for the purpose of familiarizing of Brazilians with the world of fashion, and now became very popular event, adding to a book exhibition, culinary dishes, etc. In 2007, the environment subject was the main subject of an event.
The March for the Sake of Jesus is an evangelistic parade which is held on Corpus Christi on Thursday annually around North. The march will be organized by Church of Revival in Igreja Renascer am Cristo, the denomination of Pentecostals created in the 1980th years whose popularity significantly increased in the beginning of 21 centuries.
In 2006, by official estimates, about 3 million people participated in a march. Evangelists from all regions of Brazil come to Sao Paulo for the sake of a march. Christian bands perform at the last march, more than 30. The International Festival of Electronic Language is held by the non-profit cultural organization whose purpose is development of art, technologies and scientific research.
Exhibitions, a debate, lectures and courses, conferences are for this purpose held. Each 2 years the Cultural Association Video Brussels holds the International Festival of Electronic Art, involving artists from around the world in Sao Paulo.
During the festival, exhibitions, cultural displays, in particular internet and CD arts are held.
Art exhibitions, a debate and meetings advance the new ideas, offer the new directions of the modern art of Brazil.
During the festival, works of outstanding masters of the industry are exposed. The Brazilian pioneers, such as Rafael of Franz and Oliar Eletronico, also as well as the international guests, speak at this event. Each event has the main subject. As well as in other cities of Brazil, the soccer in Sao Paulo is the most popular sport. The most famous teams of the city are Sao Paulo, Corinthians and Palmeiras. In the city, 3 more less famous teams and also Santos, in the neighboring city of Santos, also play. The Pacaembu Stadium, where famous Pelé, the king of the Brazilian soccer, often acted, is widely known. Besides, in the city there is the world's largest stadium belonging to one club, Morumbi, which accommodates viewers. The second indicator after Maracanã. Sao Paulo Stadium. Soccer teams of the city. Sao Paulo de Morumbi, Series 80000, a record -138,032. 1930. Corinthians A, Arena Corinthians Series 48000. 1910. Palmeiras A, Allianz Park Series 43700. 1914. Portuguesa Desportos de Series C, Canant. A record -25000. 1920. Juventus II Regional Ruiavari Division 2730, a record -9000. 1924.
Nacional Atlético the 3rd Regional Division, Nicola Alayona.
9650. A record -22000. 1919. Much attention of admirers of motorsport is paid to the route Interlagos, the autodrome of José Carlos Paz, in the suburb of Sao Paulo.
The track Interlagos was constructed in 1939-1940, full reconstruction was in 1990. The track has interesting feature, the movement on a track happens counterclockwise. Till 2009 the Grand Prix of Brazil usually finished the World Cup in an auto racing in class Formula 1.
In the city, the Anhembi Morumbi University, the first Brazilian university which began to issue diplomas in design of games, is located. From the very beginning of the 20th century of Sao Paulo was the economic center of Brazil.
Because of world wars and the Great Depression, the volume of supply of coffee to the USA and Europe significantly decreased. That led to the fact that coffee magnates began to invest money in the industry.
As a result of Sao Paulo became the most important industrial center of the country. Emergence of a large number of new jobs promoted strong inflow of immigrants from other regions of the country, in particular from northern states. From the city with the population about 320,000 inhabitants in 1880, Sao Paulo turned into the city from card inhabitants in 1900, card in 1940, card in 1960 and 8700 000 in 1980. According to given to the population census of 2000 conducted by Age, Seed and other organizations during 2004, the municipality felt shortage about 800,000 units of housing that corresponds to housing stock of the city with the population in 3 million inhabitants. This number corresponds to the population of slums, favelas, and the overpopulated apartment houses. Such deficiency corresponds to about 10% of deficiency of housing in the country. By estimates, it is 8 million units of housing. In 2006 from about 1523 came.
Areas of municipality, 31 came.
Occupied more than 2,000 favelas.
Along with the problem of deficiency of housing, data of agency also indicate that in the central traditional regions of the city and its southeast areas there is an outflow of the population reaching 5% a year.
The city of Sao Paulo also suffers from a considerable spatial and social segregation, and the solution of this problem remains a constant subject of a debate between experts.
Many researchers of demography of the city point that areas between the Pinheiros, Haite and Tamanduete rivers, to which the prefecture historically paid considerable attention in terms of planning and to which the majority of investments went, are areas with the best social indicators in the city now.
These areas have one of the smallest population density in the city now, though have the developed infrastructure and the system of social services. Only such areas as Ibirapir, Campobello, Vila Nova Conceição, Vila Olimpia, have considerable increase in population. The poor population, without having an opportunity to pay for life in other areas, it is forced to lodge on the outskirts of the city, which are almost deprived of infrastructure. It should be noted, however, that even in the areas limited to these rivers there are regions of social derelicts, such as Favela Heliópolis. Besides, there are also developed areas outside the rivers. Moram, Jardim and Olha Franco, Tutachuapa and Serra de Cantareira. Except a segregation, the center periphery that partly explains a social segregation is noticeable by the principal division in the same areas, for example in Morumbi, where nearby prestigious areas and favelas coexist. This phenomenon arose because of the special moments of history of planning of the city.
Transformation of Barini Avenue into the business area was the last.
One feature of this transformation is that the Pinheiros River had quite sparsely populated area of Barini Avenue, because of the unhealthy area. Because of it, inhabitants preferred to lodge further from the river, near Brooklyn.
Settling of the area of Barini Avenue resulted from considerable investments for construction of office buildings, which significantly changed the image of the area.
Favela.
In the last 2 decades, updating cases are gentrification, unattractive areas, especially in the period of José Serra and Gilberto Kassab's board, became frequent.
Reorganization of the area. Nova billiard pockets is an example. Because of the growing degradation of the central regions of the city, processes of deurbanization, erectrification and revitalization of districts of the city extended. The areas, such as Cape and Redonda, close to the center and in which there was a lack of infrastructure, historically attracted the poor population, but now feel considerable economic recovery. Now they became the centers of investments into commerce and infrastructure. Some researchers indicate big economic recovery of the 1970th years, known as economic miracle, which attracted new migrants to the city, mainly from the northeast. These are softened problems of a segregation a little. Residents of Sao Paulo own about 6 million cars. In the city, traffic jams during rush hours often result. Since 1996, the prefecture held a number of events for the purpose of improvement of transportation terms, in particular on improvement of roads, restriction of number of the available parking in the downtown, and to coercion of trucks to move around the city. However, traffic jams remain a big problem, and in March 2008 the record jam of 266 km was recorded. Today, for improvement of transportation terms, the government invests considerable means in development of a system of the subway and local trains, opening of bus routes, expansion Marginal Taite Highway and Marginal Pinheiros, a construction of the Belt Road and introduction of a fare. Indexes of crime and violence in the city remain very high, especially in peripheral areas and the next municipalities. However, considering the sizes of the city and lighting in the press, estimates of violence are in many respects exaggerated. So, Sao Paulo is 493 that in the list of the most criminal cities of Brazil.
Among the capitals of states, as of 2006, it is the fourth of the most criminal, above only the cities Boa Vista, Palmas and Natal.
The number of murders per capita in the city: 23. 7 on 100,000 a year. Are also less than in other large cities of the country, such as Recife. 90. Curitiba. 49. Belo Horizonte. 49. And Rio de Janeiro. 37. Moreover, indexes of crime continue to decrease continuously within the last 8 years. So, the number of murders decreased in 2007 by 63% in comparison with 1999. The city of Sao Paulo is known as the center of trade in illicit, piracy and counterfeited products. First of all, such trade is carried out in several areas in the downtown, such as March 25th Street, Santa Ifigenia Street, and areas near metro stations. Here it is possible to buy piracy versions of the software, the movies and albums on CD and DVD, or various accessories and articles of clothing, such as bags and t-shirts, which are fakes of products of the known international companies. In recent years, piracy trade, however, began to reduce volumes. This city also suffers from pollution of sources of water, in particular his main rivers, Taite and Pinheiros. Now on the Taite River, the program of cleaning, which passes several years, is carried out. Except bad water quality, process of an urbanization in the last decades caused a big range of problems, especially in the central and new regions. It is difficult for which inhabitants to receive water from sources outside the city. Besides, in these areas individual transport prevails over public, that leads to the increased level of environmental pollution. The problem of supply of water in the city and all agglomeration is the important reason of fears of the government of municipality. Sao Paulo has no large sources of water in surrounding areas that demands her delivery from remote regions. The problem of pollution of water is especially important because of expansion of the city, that it increases weight of supply of poorer areas by peripheries. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.